Always Auburn with your host, Tyler Crane.
All right, we're back at you with Always Auburn. Sunday afternoon. We're going to get into the post game this afternoon. We're going to take a look back and recap the game. The Auburn Tigers took a 24-17 loss on the road in Norman, Oklahoma yesterday in a very hard-fought defensive slugfest that had some bad, unfortunate calls go the opposite direction of the Auburn Tigers and ultimately held a huge impact on that game. So we're going to dive into that first. I don't want to spend too much time on it because things like officiating are really out of the control of the team and control of the coaches. You really have to focus on what you can control throughout the football game. And generally, you got to expect there's going to be some bad calls. Now, do you expect there to be calls with that type of magnitude that we saw yesterday that really have the ability to swing the game and just be bad calls? No, you don't. It's hard to foresee that, and it's hard to handle that during the game. And on the bright side of all that, I think the Auburn players did a great job of handling themselves through those bad calls and not giving up on themselves, not getting frustrated, and really just, walking in there with a business-like approach. Whatever comes at us that is outside of our realm of control, we're going to take it in stride, and it's next down, and we're going to keep playing football, and we're going to leave it all on the field. And I think we did a very good job about that, about not letting our emotions get the better of us when the calls didn't go our way, especially when they seemed like they should have. So to get into that, there's been statements late last night. The SEC headquarters put out a statement that the deception play that Oklahoma ran on the sideline, where they acted like number 5 was substituting out of the game only for him to be hiding out on the side by the sideline. They admitted in a statement, the SEC did, that the officials did not interpret that correctly, and there should have been a flag called on that play for unsportsmanlike conduct, and that touchdown should have been taken off the board for them. And ensuingly, they would have been backed up to, I want to say, about almost the 40-yard line, almost Auburn's 40-yard line, which would have probably put them out of field goal range. We never know. We don't know what would have came throughout the rest of that drive, but it would have been second and about 30. So do they get points right there if that play is really called how it's supposed to be called? The percentages are in the favor that they don't get points. So take that how you may. I don't understand how you miss that call. I really question that if the referees really understood the rule, to tell you the truth, because we haven't seen this much. And I know you used to be able to do things like that as a I played football, and you used to be able to, act like you were coming off the field and not come off the field. And as long as you're on the field, you can still be in the play. And as long as there's 11 men on the field, then you're a man. Then it's all legal. Well, I think how this all happened is when they started changing these substitution rules to accommodate for the defense's lack of ability to substitute when the offenses go fast. I think this deception rule fell into play and came into where it is now then, and it was established, and it's fairly new, and it hasn't been really a point of emphasis to be made known. Like, we haven't seen that. I haven't seen, out of all the football I've watched, I've never seen that call need to be made. So Hugh Freeze talks about, though, in his press conference a little bit about it. If you catch it, you watch his press conference after the game last night when the media asked him about these certain officiating, just bad officiating. He said that throughout the offseason, the coaches, he's a coach, so he said throughout the offseason, the coaches in the SEC and in the league were made aware many of times about this rule, that they will be flagged for unsportsmanlike conduct if there is any type of deceptive substitution that goes on during a game, which that makes sense. It's a rule. So Brent Venerables and Ben Arbuckle are aware. If Coach Freeze is not lying, I'm pretty sure they were told too that this is a rule. And they were made aware, just like Auburn was, because I don't think they don't tell one school one thing and tell another school the other thing. I think this is all conference, Zoom meetings, whatever, and it is head coaches, and they're supposed to deliver the message to their coordinators, and this has no place on the football field. And yeah, I might be a little, salty about it because I'm an Auburn fan. I mean, who wouldn't be? We got cheated in essence, really, but it's really it's really a reflection of just the pure bad intention and disregard for morals and ethics of the game. Like, why would you call a play and practice a play? Bob Stoops said in his interview, and this has been reported as well, I'm not just blowing smoke now. Bob Stoops, the former Oklahoma Hall of Fame coach, said in a radio interview that they practiced this at practice this week. Now, he probably didn't know the rule because he's been out of coaching and all that. So he didn't think there was anything wrong with him saying on the radio that, they were practicing this all week. So to think that Brent Venerables and this offensive coordinator, Ben Arbuckle, knew the rule, were made aware of that it can't be done, that it's an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, it's just like the same kind of stuff that falls under unsportsmanlike is taunting and running your mouth at the other team and just everything that violates the code of ethics of football. You, as the head coach and the offensive coordinator, deliberately violated this rule to be deceptive and not and have no care, of the rule, no respect, none of that for what they'd been told, and really tried to do this and get away with it. And I think they should be fined, to tell you the truth. I think Oklahoma, that is an offense, and it's being overlooked because of just everything else that occurred in this game with the fumble, and we'll get into that too. Don't get me wrong, but how the refs missed the call. It's the refs. Like make the call. You should make that call. You should know what's going on, and you should make that call. But I'm even more disgusted, to tell you the truth, with these coaches, Brent Venerables and the offensive coordinator, Ben Arbuckle, that they took time to run this sort of deceptive type play, strategy, whatever, in hopes that they would get away with it. And it's just, it just defeats the point of having rules in a game and following these rules. It's like, do you teach your players to hold at football practice? Do you teach your players to cheap shot other players and get blindside blocks and targeting? Because it's all in the same category, in my opinion. Like, if you're going to do that, then do you teach your players to try to hurt other players in the game? So, they got away with it. Congratulations, Ben Arbuckle and Brent Venerables. You got away with violating those rules, and you did it knowingly that you'd been made aware that this is not legal, and it will be flagged for unsportsmanlike conduct, and you still practiced it and deliberately put it on the field yesterday, and it's a reflection of your lack of respect for the game. So that I could preach on that all day, but it's sad, and I think the SEC really has a responsibility here. Greg Sankey, the commissioner, and all of the administration in the Southeastern Conference, they have a responsibility to hold these people who make these types of decisions accountable for their actions. And Ben Arbuckle and Brent Venerables should be held accountable for what they did on the field Saturday afternoon in Norman, Oklahoma. So we'll get off that for a second. The fumble, man, we know it was a terrible call. Like, we know it was a terrible call. How do you make the same call at the end of the game when the boy caught the ball running out of bounds and lost possession? Now that's a catch. That was a catch. I completely agree. Ref, good overturn. That was a catch. But how's that not a catch? How is that a catch? And the one we returned for the touchdown a catch? I don't know how you make sense of that, to tell you the truth. I think we need to go with this officiating stuff, with official reviews and stuff like what happened. I think there needs to be a staff or a board in the headquarters that needs to review all this stuff as the game is live. And because these refs are human beings, and there's game time emotions, there's things going on around them. You got all these coaches in their ears on the sidelines, all that. And if you don't think that impacts calls, you got to be crazy. You got to be crazy. Because what is the definition of how you can overturn a ruling on the field? It's got to be indisputable video evidence. Now, if you call it an incomplete pass on the field, then maybe I can see you not overturning that call and saying he had possession, because it might have been hard to say there was indisputable video evidence. But you can't tell me, Oklahoma fans, whoever, that there was indisputable video evidence that proved, not that you thought or it looked like, or that proved that without a shadow of a doubt, because that's what that means, without any doubt whatsoever, we made the wrong call on the field and the boy never had possession. There's no way whatsoever. And, I'm not big on the officiating, deciding the games and all that. I think you make your own way. I think you play through the refs, you play through officiating, and we really tried to do that yesterday. We just came up a little short, and that's on us for coming up short. But you can't sit here and not think that if those two calls, I'm not even going to get into all the pass interference that was missed. I'm not even going to, and all the holding that was missed. I'm not even going to get into all of that. Save that for they can have that. That you can have that, whatever. I'm not going to even get into all that. Those two calls, those two plays changed the game. You took 7 points off the board for us. You put 7 points on the board you put 10 points on the board for them, because they kicked a field goal on the drive that we would have scored the touchdown on if they would have made the right call on the fumble. So you put 10 points on the board for them and took 7 points off the board for us. That's a 17-point swing. And this was a 7-point game that came down to the last possession. You can't tell me that those two calls did not change the course of the game, because they did. They clearly did, and it's ridiculous. And I believe everyone should be held accountable, because, hey, we're in a day and age that you got technology, you got official review, your players get paid, your coaches get paid, the refs get paid, everybody gets paid. And so this is a business, this is a job. And when you don't do your job, if I don't do my job, they're going to fire me. And when these refs don't do their job, guess what? You need to be fired. When these coaches don't do their jobs and uphold their moral responsibility to the game of football and the code of ethics that comes with college football, they should be fired. Point blank simple. So It's very discouraging as an Auburn fan, and I can only imagine how those players feel. What else do you got to do? You know, I can only imagine. And I hate Hugh Freeze when he get. I don't hate Hugh Freeze. Hugh Freeze, excuse me. I I hate the facial expressions. I hate the look of defeat. And I saw it after the. You can't control the refs, Hugh. You can't let us talk about them after the game. Let the SEC put out statements. That's out of your control, man. Your team looks to you, and when they overturn that call, and and things happen throughout that game, and they put and this is just me watching from TV, and they put that camera on you. You look defeated every time. You look, oh man, why us again? Why this? Why that? There's got to be a point to say, hey, it's us against the refs. It's us against Oklahoma. It's us against the world, man. But that's all right. You know, that they look to you in those moments, Coach Freeze. Those moments, those key moments, they look to you to see how you're going to handle this adversity because it reflects in them. It reflects on what they come out on the field. And I'm not saying that Auburn did a bad job after these bad calls, because I really think they did a great job of responding to the adversity that was put in their face because of the referees and because of the bad calls and the overall overall atmosphere that seemed like it was kind of Auburn versus everybody, because it was. It was Auburn versus the crowd. You know, they booing Jackson Arnold. They throwing stuff at him, flicking them off before the game, all that good stuff. It's us versus the refs, you know, bad call after bad call after bad call. I mean, I'm almost wondering if the refs wanted to be on TV. Like if they say, hey, I'm refing the Oklahoma game, I'm gonna be on TV all night. Like because it was too much, man. It was too much. It's probably the worst game of officiating I've ever seen, and there's been some bad ones, but this one, I mean, when you understand the rules and how the game is played, like this one really, it really stings, man, because it's us against our special teams, us against ourselves, like, you know, it's a lot. It's a lot to look at and to say that outside of our control, there was so much steered towards us losing that game. And that's discouraging as a supporter of the program. So spent a little time on the refs. I'm going to get back to you on another segment. We went a little too far with the refs, and I wanted to go and get that out there because everybody wants to hear about the refs and all that. But I want to key in again and really reiterate, hey, man, like, Brent, to think that y'all knew Brent Venerables and Ben Arbuckle, the two people who called these plays, who practiced these plays, to think that y'all knew that this was illegal, that you've been made aware of it throughout the offseason. That's what Coach Hugh Freeze said, that they were told, all the coaches were told about this deception of substitution. They were all told about that rule. To think that you spent the time this week practicing these plays and these tactics to go out there and be deceptive and hope you got away with it, that speaks about your character and about your respect for the game and the players that play this game. And you should be ashamed of yourself. You should be ashamed of yourself. And it wasn't just those plays either. If you go back and you pay attention, those pick plays, I guarantee you, those were also preordained, and those players were told, try to get away with it. Try to we're gonna call these plays in some when we think it's a good time to call them in the game. And they did good at calling them at the right times. And see if you can get away with trying to throw a shoulder out there and pick the corner. Because they did that about 3 times too. Fortunately, the refs were on it and they called those penalties. But it just speaks about the character of those coaches, that you deliberately go out there and you try to cheat the game to win the football game. So I'm going to close on that. That's enough with that. We'll be back at you to talk a little bit about everything outside of the officiating and the bad ethics of the Oklahoma Sooners coaching staff. So have a good rest of y'all's day. War Eagle!